Welcome to another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum where all voices matter. There's a new bill before Parliament designed to update our privacy laws for the private sector. Bill C-27 aims to replace the 20-year-old legislation. To understand its implications, I've invited two guests. Adam Chambers is the Member of Parliament for Simcoe-North and the Deputy Shadow Minister for National Revenue. And Stephen Taylor joins us. He's a Toronto privacy lawyer. Welcome to you both. I hope you don't have any Chinese spy balloons around where you are, so hopefully the skies are clear. There we go. Gentlemen, I wanted to start off just to maybe outline what this new legislation means. Maybe Stephen, do you want to get us going on what Bill C-27 is all about?
Thank you very much, Tony, for having me here. I look forward to talking about Bill C-27 with you and Adam. Obviously, the opinions I express are my opinions. I'm not providing any legal advice in our conversation. Look, Bill C-27 is very important. It is a fundamental overhaul to the Canadian privacy legislation known as PIPEDA. Canada is moving, in my opinion, into a direction more closely like what we see in Europe with the GDPR and like what we see in, for example, California with CCPA. If and when Bill C-27 passes, it will create what's called the Consumer Privacy Protection Act. And in short, it's going to increase privacy rights for consumers, for Canadian consumers. It's also going to add new enforcement procedures and create new penalties and punishments, frankly, for not complying with privacy legislation. This is a bold step for Canada. It's moving us, I think, more in line with some of our international allies' legislation like we see in the US and in Europe. It's much needed. So I think in the privacy community, we welcome this legislation.
Fantastic to get your viewpoint there. Adam, maybe give us your perspective on this. Is this legislation necessary, and if so, why?
Well, it is, as mentioned by Stephen, one of a more significant overhaul of legislation in a long period of time. The technological changes, just even in the last 5 years, especially with respect to things like artificial intelligence, and we're all seeing some of these fascinating capabilities that artificial intelligence can do, and that's just developments in the last few years. So this area of technological development has been moving very quickly, and so there are some welcome updates and significant measures. Of course, data itself and personal privacy, everyone should have a right or ought to have a right to this personal privacy or a data right, as has been the case in some other jurisdictions going down that line of reasoning. In addition, increased powers for the privacy commissioner are welcome in most cases. I would also, make a link back to some of the government actions in the Emergencies Act and how the privacy commissioner is examining that, looking at how the government itself used people's personal information. But we want to make sure also there are no loopholes that are unintentionally created, so that Canadians can have significant confidence in the way that their information is being used by corporations, or the level of disclosure that they receive that lets them know how information may be used by some of the corporations and entities that hold their information.
Oh, that's interesting. We'll certainly unpack that as the show comes along. Adam, we got about Stephen, we've got about a minute before the break. Are you seeing in this legislation things that could help with some of the issues surrounding AI and deep fakes and all these other things that are going on?
Absolutely, and Adam is spot on to highlight the importance of AI coming under this legislation. I mean, Henry Kissinger just wrote a very interesting book recently called The Age of AI, which in a nutshell says that this is a revolutionary change for our society, and having legislation in Canada that keeps up with these AI developments is very important. For example, we see under the legislation that Canada is looking at creating an artificial intelligence data commissioner. This is tremendously important.
That is very interesting. There's more that we can unpack after we take a little bit of a break. We are going to do this at this time. We'll be back with our guests after the break. Please stay with us.